You ever have someone try to control something they don't even own? I mean, really try, with paperwork and threats and that smug little smile like they've already won. Imagine getting fined for solar panels on land that isn't even part of the neighborhood association. Then imagine they don't stop there. They try the county. They try the courts. And when that doesn't work, they put a lien on your property like you're one of their members. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about power. My wife Lauren and I bought our place about 9 years ago. 5 acres, tucked out at the edge of what used to be open pasture land outside a mid-sized southern town I won't name. Back then our closest neighbor was a cattle ranch half a mile down the dirt road. You could hear the wind move through the grass at night. No traffic, no streetlights, just stars. We didn't move out there because we were prepping for the apocalypse. I'd spent almost 15 years in software development, working long hours in glass office buildings, and I was tired. Tired of utility bills. Tired of traffic. Tired of feeling like I was renting my own life. Lauren's a freelance graphic designer. She can work from anywhere with decent internet. So we decided to build something that actually belonged to us. We did it right. Solar array with battery storage. A deep well. Rainwater collection tied into irrigation. Composting system built to county spec. Graywater recycling for the orchard. The house was a custom passive solar build. Clean lines, big south-facing windows, insulated like a Yeti cooler. We weren't living in some shack with a tarp roof. We put real money into it. Permits, inspections, engineering stamps, the whole 9 yards. For the first 3 years it was peaceful. Then the land around us sold. A developer named Halverson Development bought everything on 3 sides of our property and rolled in with bulldozers. Within a year there were rows of identical beige houses with tiny lawns and a clubhouse with fake stone columns. They named it Silver Ridge Commons, which always makes me laugh because there is no ridge and nothing silver about it. They formed an HOA before the paint was dry. Now to be clear, our parcel was never part of that development. Our deed predates their entire project. No covenants, no HOA clauses, no shared easements. We triple-checked with our attorney when construction started, just to be safe. We were legally separate in every possible way. At first, things were fine. A few of the new neighbors would walk by and ask about the chickens or the solar panels. We'd give them tomatoes from the garden. Most of them were just families trying to make a home like anyone else. Then the HOA had their first big board election. That's when Caleb Prescott showed up. Caleb had moved in 6 months earlier. Retired insurance claims supervisor. Late 50s. Always wore polo shirts tucked into pleated khakis like he was heading to a corporate picnic that never ended. He started attending meetings before he even unpacked fully. Complained about mailbox colors. Complained about fence heights. Complained about a kid's basketball hoop being visible from the street. He ran for HOA president on a platform of protecting property values. He won. Within weeks, Silver Ridge turned into a compliance factory. Grass measured with rulers. Violation notices for trash cans left out too long. A family got fined because their front door was eggshell instead of approved almond. People grumbled, but most just paid the fines and moved on. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I opened our mailbox and found the first letter addressed to us from Silver Ridge Community Association. It said our solar panels violated aesthetic guidelines and needed to be removed or screened within 30 days. There was a $50 fine attached. I actually laughed out loud. Lauren laughed too. We figured it was a clerical error and tossed it. 2 weeks later, another notice came. Chickens prohibited within community boundaries. $50 fine. We ignored that one too. By the 4th letter, the fines were escalating. Compost bins labeled a health hazard. Rain barrels called unsightly. Greenhouse declared an unauthorized structure. The total was up over $300 and climbing. That's when I wrote back. I kept it polite. Attached a copy of our deed, highlighted the parcel number, explained clearly that our property was not and had never been part of their HOA. Sent it certified mail to both the board and their management company, which was a small outfit called Evergreen Association Services. A week later, I was out by the gate fixing a hinge when I heard a car door slam. I looked up, and there was Caleb Prescott walking up our gravel drive like he owned it. "So you're the ones dragging down our property values," he said without even introducing himself. I wiped my hands on a rag and told him calmly that we weren't part of his HOA and never would be. He actually chuckled. "That's what everyone says at first. The covenants run with the land around here." You're surrounded by us. Sooner or later, you'll comply. It wasn't anger in his voice. It was certainty. I told him that's not how property law works. He got red in the face and said I'd be hearing from their attorney. Over the next few months, the letters kept coming. 2 a week sometimes. Fines piling up past $4,000. Then a formal demand letter from their lawyer threatening legal action if we didn't pay and bring the property into compliance. Lauren and I hired our own attorney. She sent a cease and desist laying out in plain English that they had zero jurisdiction. For a couple months, things went quiet. Then the county started knocking. Health department complaint about our composting system. Building inspector complaint about the solar array. Animal control complaint about the chickens. 3 separate reports filed the same day. Every inspector who came out ended up complimenting our setup. One even asked for our design specs. But it cost us time, stress, and a lot of digging through paperwork. And then they crossed a line. One morning I got notice that Silver Ridge had filed a lien against our property for unpaid HOA fines. They had placed a legal claim on land they did not control. Our attorney went nuclear. Filed a motion. The judge tossed the lien fast and ordered the HOA to cover our legal fees for that action. I figured that would end it. A week later, Caleb cornered me at a gas station in town. He jabbed a finger at my chest and said, "This isn't over. I will make you comply." Standing there under fluorescent lights with that smell of gasoline in the air, I realized something. He wasn't trying to enforce rules. He was trying to win. And that's when I stopped playing defense. So there I was, standing at pump number 4 with Caleb Prescott's finger digging into my chest like he was pressing an elevator button, telling me he was going to make my life miserable until I either complied or sold. And the thing is, he meant it. You could see it in his eyes. This wasn't about solar panels or chickens. It was about the fact that I existed outside his control, 5 acres of independence sitting right next to his carefully managed kingdom. On the drive home, I didn't say much. Lauren could tell something was turning in my head. She's known me long enough to recognize that quiet. When we pulled into our driveway, she looked at me and said, "Okay, what are you thinking?" "Something stupid," I said. "Or brilliant. I'm not sure which yet." Here's the thing most people don't think about when it comes to HOAs. The board makes the noise, but the management company makes the machine run. They send the letters. They collect the dues. They track violations. They handle vendor contracts. Without them, the board is just a group of volunteers arguing in a clubhouse. Silver Ridge used Evergreen Association Services. Small local firm. Not some giant corporate outfit. I started digging. Evergreen was owned by a guy named Martin Felt. Mid-60s. Started the business 20 years earlier. Managed about a dozen communities in the region. From what I could tell, it wasn't some high-flying enterprise. It was steady. Recurring revenue. Tight margins. A lifestyle business. I was venting to a buddy of mine, Eric, who works in commercial real estate. We were having beers one night, and I told him the whole story. He laughed and said, "Man, I heard Evergreen's owner's been trying to retire. You should just buy the company and fire your own violation notices." He said it as a joke. I didn't laugh. Lauren saw the look on my face across the table. "No," she said quietly. "You're not actually considering that." I didn't answer her, because I was. Over the next few weeks, I made some calls through a business broker. I didn't use my name at first. Set up an LLC. Had the broker approach Martin discreetly. And sure enough, he was open to selling. Health issues. Burned out from dealing with board drama. Ready to be done. The asking price was surprisingly reasonable. Now, I'd done well in tech. We lived off-grid. No power bill. No water bill. No mortgage anymore. We saved aggressively for years. Buying a small management company wasn't pocket change, but it wasn't impossible either. Before I made any moves, I had our attorney review Evergreen's contracts, especially the one with Silver Ridge. That's when things got interesting. The management contract Caleb had signed on behalf of the HOA was, frankly, lopsided. It gave Evergreen broad operational authority, the right to conduct financial audits, the right to present findings directly to homeowners, the right to approve vendor contracts. And the termination clause, oh man. If the HOA wanted to fire the management company, they had to give 18 months notice and pay a termination fee equal to 2 full years of management fees. Our attorney read that section twice, leaned back in her chair, and said, "Your HOA president basically handed operational control to whoever owns this company." I just sat there, feeling that slow burn turn into something else. Not anger anymore. Strategy. We closed the deal 3 months later. On a Friday afternoon, in a quiet conference room downtown, I signed the paperwork. Martin shook my hand, thanked me for making the process smooth, and walked away with his retirement funded. I walked out the owner of Evergreen Association Services, the same company that had been sending me violation notices for 2 years. Lauren poured us both a bourbon that night and said, "This is either the smartest move you've ever made or the dumbest." "Probably both," I said. I didn't announce anything right away. First thing Monday morning, I sat in Evergreen's small office going through files. Contracts, emails, financials, violation logs. I wanted to know exactly what kind of mess I'd inherited before I made a single move. What I found at Silver Ridge wasn't criminal mastermind stuff. It was smaller, petty, sloppy. There were invoices for landscaping services paid to a company called Prescott Outdoor Solutions. Took about 5 minutes to discover that it was owned by Caleb's brother-in-law. There were community outreach expenses that looked suspiciously like dinners at a steakhouse in town, charged to the HOA card. There was a security system upgrade for the clubhouse that, based on the invoice description, included a high-end projector and surround sound setup. Funny thing was, regular residents weren't allowed to use the clubhouse most weekends because of private board functions. Over 2 years, questionable expenditures added up to just over $40,000. Not enough to make headlines, but enough to matter to families paying monthly dues. Then I reviewed the compliance logs. The 2 field inspectors Evergreen employed weren't bad guys. Tom and Luis. They drove around communities, took pictures, logged violations. Multiple times in their internal notes, I saw comments about our property. Parcel not listed in HOA map. Recommend no action. Outside jurisdiction. And next to those notes were overrides. Direct instructions from the board president demanding that violation letters continue. One email from Tom read, "This may expose us to liability." It had been ignored. I called Tom and Luis into my office. "I'm the new owner," I told them. "And as of right now, any enforcement actions against that 5-acre parcel stop." Immediately, Tom actually exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for a year. "Thank God," he said. "We knew that wasn't right." That was the moment I realized something important. Most of this machine ran because people were afraid to push back. Now came the part I'd been waiting for. Silver Ridge had its quarterly board meeting scheduled for the following Thursday evening. As the management company owner, I was required to attend and present reports. Normally Martin would have gone. This time, I went myself. I put on a blazer, left the flannel at home, drove into Silver Ridge and parked outside that faux stone clubhouse like I belonged there. Inside, maybe 40 homeowners were seated in folding chairs. Caleb was at the front, shuffling papers, wearing that same tucked-in polo. He glanced at me, didn't recognize me at first. The meeting started with the usual nonsense. Approval of minutes. Treasury summary. Then Caleb moved into new business. "We are continuing to address non-compliant properties adjacent to our community," he said, not looking at me, but very clearly talking about me. "We will escalate enforcement to protect our property values." A woman in the second row raised her hand. "How much have we spent on legal action against properties that aren't even in the HOA?" Caleb stiffened. "The exact figures aren't relevant." That was my cue. I stood up slowly. "Actually," I said, "they are relevant." Every head turned. "I'm Daniel Harper," I continued, "the new owner of Evergreen Association Services." The room went quiet in a way you can feel physically, like the air pressure changed. Caleb's face drained of color. He recognized me then. "You can't be serious," he said. "I am," I replied calmly. "And as part of our routine ownership transition, I conducted a comprehensive financial audit of Silver Ridge Commons." I held up a neatly bound packet. "And I have some concerns." You could hear the hum of the clubhouse air conditioner, that soft rattling sound it made every few seconds, and for a moment nobody said a word. Caleb was staring at me like I'd just told him I bought the moon. "This is a conflict of interest," he snapped finally. "You live adjacent to this community." "I do," I said evenly. "But I'm here tonight in my professional capacity as the owner of the management company your board contracted. The same contract you personally signed." I opened the packet and began walking them through it, slow and calm, the way you would explain something to a client who deserves clarity. "Over the past 24 months," I said, Silver Ridge has paid approximately $42,000 in expenses that require further explanation. Murmurs started immediately. I flipped to the first page. Landscaping consultation fees totaling $12,000 paid to Prescott Outdoor Solutions. A man in the third row leaned forward. "Isn't that your brother-in-law's company?" he asked Caleb. Caleb's jaw tightened. "That's irrelevant." "It's not irrelevant," I said gently, especially considering the consulting rate was nearly double the regional average. A few heads turned. Someone muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." I moved to the next section. Community outreach expenses billed at local restaurants, totaling just over $9,000. A woman near the aisle raised her hand halfway. "That's where my dues are going? While the pool's been broken since Memorial Day?" That one hit hard. You could feel it ripple through the room. And regarding the clubhouse security upgrade, I continued, the invoice includes a high-end projection system and surround sound equipment. Equipment not listed in any publicly accessible reservation inventory. A guy in the back actually laughed once, short and sharp. "So that's why it's booked every Saturday for board business." Caleb slammed his hand on the table. "This is a smear campaign. You bought this company to sabotage us." I let that sit for a second. "Actually," I said, "I bought the company because I was tired of receiving violation notices for property you don't control." And speaking of that, I turned a page. Our compliance officers documented multiple times that my parcel was not within HOA jurisdiction. Those notes were overridden by directive from the board president. Now the room wasn't just murmuring. It was angry. "You cost us legal fees over that, didn't you?" someone called out. Caleb tried to regain control. "The management company does not have the authority to present this without board approval." I reached into my folder and pulled out the management contract. Section 7B, I read aloud. "The management company retains authority to conduct financial audits and present findings directly to homeowners in the interest of fiduciary transparency." I looked up. "You signed this." He looked like he might actually explode. One of the other board members, a younger woman named Karen who I'd barely noticed before, turned slowly toward him. "Did you read this contract before you signed it?" Silence. That was the tipping point. Homeowners started speaking over one another. Questions. Accusations. Frustration that had clearly been simmering for months, finally finding oxygen. A retired teacher stood up and said, "My husband and I are on a fixed income. We've been paying every fine, every dues increase, because we thought it was for the community, and you're telling me we've been funding steak dinners." Caleb tried to shout over them. "This is hysteria. We've operated within our authority." A man in the back yelled, "Then why did a judge throw out your lien and make us pay his legal fees?" That one stung. You could see it. And then Karen spoke again, louder this time. I moved for a vote of no confidence in the board president. Now here's where it got almost cinematic. Under Silver Ridge's own bylaws, a majority vote at a general meeting could trigger a special election. And we had more than enough homeowners present. Hands went up, one after another. 28 in favor. 4 opposed. Caleb looked around the room like he couldn't process what was happening, like the script had changed and nobody had given him the update. "This isn't over," he muttered, gathering his papers. He stormed out, pushing past folding chairs, knocking one over on his way. Through the clubhouse windows, you could see his wife waiting in their SUV. When he climbed in, she leaned toward him, clearly asking what happened. He just stared straight ahead. The weeks that followed were almost surreal. An interim board formed, including Karen and a few other homeowners who actually seemed to care about transparency. We conducted a full reconciliation of the accounts. The total questionable spending came in just north of $42,000. Letters were sent. Attorneys consulted. In the end, Caleb repaid a significant portion personally. The other involved board members covered the rest. No drawn-out court battle. Just quiet settlements and a lot of embarrassed silence. Within a month, Prescott Outdoor Solutions was replaced by a reputable landscaping company at half the cost. The common areas actually started looking green again. The pool? It needed a pump replacement that should have been handled months earlier. Fixed in 2 weeks. The clubhouse was reopened for general reservations. Families started hosting birthday parties there instead of closed-door board dinners. And as for us, at the next official meeting, the new board passed a formal resolution acknowledging that our 5-acre parcel was not, and had never been, part of Silver Ridge Commons. All outstanding fines voided. Not that they meant anything in the first place. Several homeowners came up to me afterward, shook my hand, thanked me, not just for exposing the finances, but for standing up in the first place. One guy said quietly, "We were afraid to push back." He retaliated against anyone who questioned him. That stuck with me. I ran Evergreen for about a year after that, cleaned up internal processes, gave Tom and Luis raises they deserved, focused on making sure the communities we managed were actually served instead of milked. And then, when it felt right, I sold the company to Tom. He'd expressed interest in moving into management, and honestly, he had the integrity for it. The day I signed those papers, I felt something close to closure. Caleb sold his house not long after and moved out of town. I heard through the grapevine he blamed politics and conspiracy. Maybe that's what he needs to believe. Every now and then I still drive past Silver Ridge. The lawns look better. Kids ride bikes in the cul-de-sac. It feels normal. And our place? Still there. Solar panels catching the sun. Chickens scratching in the yard. Garden growing. He told me I would comply with community standards one way or another. In the end, I did. I just made sure the standards applied to him too. Now here's the part one still wrestle with sometimes. Did I go too far? Buying a company just to stop one man from overreaching, that's not exactly subtle. Some people would say I escalated it. That I could have just kept fighting in court. Maybe. But here's what I learned. Systems don't abuse people. People abuse systems. And sometimes the only way to fix that is to step inside the machine and turn the gears yourself. So I'm curious what you think. If you were in my shoes, would you have kept playing defense? Would you have shut the whole HOA down if you could? Or was this the right kind of compliance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them. I really do. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA power trip, I want to hear that story too. Because sometimes the most satisfying victories don't come from breaking the rules. They come from knowing them better than the person trying to use them against you.